How can we reclaim ourselves, our history, our knowledge, our culture to resist the chaos that we see happening around us? That is the question that I'll be tackling in this live today. So, welcome to everyone who's joining live. If you are on the replay, please like this video. Please comment below if anything resonates with you. And yeah, I'm so glad you're here. Please subscribe to my channel. I always forget to mention that. But yes, happy Thursday, y'all. So tonight I just want to kind of do like an impromptu live about reclaiming ourselves, right? We see a lot of forces around us trying to bring us back to a time right before we had things that were thought to be solidified in culture, in society, before we had rights, before a lot of us had rights. They're trying to bring us back before that time. So my question is, well, why don't we go back even further, right? Before colonization, before enslavement, before the knowledge that was intentionally stripped from us, from our families, from our communities, and really tap back in because we carry it within us, right? Epigenetics is a field of study basically saying that we carry trauma in our DNA. What we also carry in our DNA is ancestral memories of things from the past. So what if we tap back into the power that we have internally, reclaim ourselves, rediscover who we are authentically to resist the chaos that we see happening around us, right? Because that's the goal, to try to bring us in to the madness and things that they're creating to kind of distract us from our goal here, which is spiritual evolution, right? At least in my opinion. So yes, if you are joining tonight, please introduce yourselves in the chat. Say hello so we can say hello to you. But yes. And I don't know if I introduced myself at all, but I'm Marissa Price. I'm an intuitive healer and a business coach as well. Also a social worker. So just kind of sharing the intersections of my knowledge, of my lived experience, of things that I'm observing. This particular topic came to me just being really irritated, frustrated, enraged at what I'm seeing happening, right? It feels like one cabinet pick after another. It's like, wow, that's where we are in 2024, right? So clearly there's a shift of trying to bring us back further, right? And I think it's important to remember that there was a time before all of this. There were thousands of years before this, before we were enveloped in this madness forcibly for a lot of us. And how can we go back and reclaim that knowledge, right? To reclaim ourselves, who we are, who we know ourselves to be, who we are authentically, versus living in a colonized world, right? And being told who we have to be and how we have to show up every day, because that can be draining, right? And that is the goal. That is the goal of colonization, right? It's really like it affects us mentally. Something I'm going to get into, the first thing, right? Our identity and our self-perception, how colonization impacts that, right? So colonization, just to give a definition, the action or process of settling among and establishing control over the indigenous people of an area. So how does this impact our identity and our self-perception, right? Well, colonization as a whole disrupted cultural, familial, and spiritual traditions that had been established for thousands of years, right? And if y'all see the world today and see just the fact that I'm speaking English right now, it's an example of colonization, right? When you think about England as such a tiny island in comparison to like the masses of the world, how are so many of us speaking English? Colonization, right? And so how has this affected our view of self, our self-perception, to have to fit into these boxes, into these molds that we did not consent to, we did not agree to them, right? This was kind of forced on us in order to assimilate, in order to fit into a colonized system. We had to take off parts of ourselves, right? And this happens early on in our very early years, which was why it's important to return to your childhood self and reclaim those parts of yourself, because that's who you are before these boxes came into being, right? And hey, Jasmine, good to see you here. Good to see you here. Thank you for saying hello. Yes. Excited for this discussion. Oh, I'm happy. Yeah. So like I said, this topic came about just kind of understanding colonization over the past maybe 5, 6, 7 years. And I just want to shout out like my graduate school program. Hey, Kathy. Good to see you. Good to see you here. Thank you for joining. Yes. So, being a social worker, having the opportunity to work with Indigenous populations in the US, as well as hear from Indigenous people from what is now known as Australia, right? And so, having that knowledge of how colonization impacts our mental health, our perception of self, and then how we're interacting with each other, how we view ourselves as powerful or not, right? Our level of self efficacy when it comes to carrying out things that we want to do, when it comes to feeling like we have to ask permission to do the things that we want to do. Where do these beliefs come from? We live in a colonized world that we're socialized to ask permission from who? The colonizer, to do anything, right? And so it's a deep unlearning, it's a deep untangling of these beliefs and exploring where did they come from in order to uproot them, because they're not serving us, they're serving the colonizer. So yes, hey, Giovanna, good to see you here. Yes, I've been loving your posts, Giovanna. Yes, please check out Giovanna's channel, Kathy's channel as well. Yes. Hey, Sade, good to see you. Yes, you're so welcome. You're so welcome. Thank you for being here. Yes. Yeah, so like I said, right, it disrupted the whole act of colonization, right? Going around the world, literally what European colonizers did, went around the world, took pieces, right, claimed them as their own, committed heinous acts against indigenous peoples on these lands. And then what impacts did that have on the people, right? And we know that enslavement occurred after colonization of what we now know as the United States of America. So it's kind of like a two-part thing that's very important to link those two together, right? Our ancestors were brought here forcibly onto colonized land, onto land that had been stolen, right? So that's very important to recognize as well. Oh, you're welcome. You're welcome. Yes, you're so welcome. Yes, right? So cultural, familial, spiritual traditions that had been in place for thousands of years had now went away, right? Forcibly under colonizers' rules. Hey, good to see you here, Alicia. Yes. Yes, how colonization has influenced stereotypes, right, that we even have of ourselves, how we internalize how colonizers perceive us, and we think that about ourselves, that we're not powerful, right? Again, going back to self-efficacy, I'm planning on doing a video on how colonization impacts our boundaries, right? The people on a land, you don't have you can't have boundaries without violence by the colonizers. And so how does this impact us on an individual level when it comes to doing things like establishing boundaries in everyday life? These things are very connected, right? The larger systems that we live in inform how we view ourselves and how we interact with each other on a micro level. That's important to realize as well. Yeah. Come on. Boundaries, yes. Yeah, and just realizing like why it's so difficult to establish boundaries, right? A lot of that is in childhood trauma, right? But again, childhood trauma is also impacted by the larger systems at play that tell us how to interact with each other, that tell us that we have to extract power from people who are deemed to have less power, which is often children, right? So this huge system of colonization that has literally altered the globe, the entire earth, how is it now impacting us on an individual level, on a micro level, on our self-identity, on our self-perception? And how can we now reclaim those parts of ourselves that colonizers told us we had to leave behind, right? Or be met with violence. Yes. And yes, if y'all have any questions, let me know. But yes. How can we identify, question, and then dismantle the inherited beliefs under colonization that do not serve us, right? But that label us as just being here to be in servitude to people, right? To shrink, to not think that our voices are powerful. It's kind of like it's a mind trick, right? When you think about the things that had to occur to take this much land, when you look at the entire earth, what mental things, tricks, right, tools had to be deployed for this, for an act this large, right? And we see it literally around the entire globe. Again, the fact that I'm speaking English, right? That so many of us speak English from a tiny island in Europe. How did this occur? And so it's really asking those questions, right? As we see people trying to take us backwards, it's like, can we go back a little further and see how this all began? Because there was a time before this. And that's another tool of colonization, to try to limit our memories to what happened like 10, 20, 30, 40 years ago, right? And even make us think that centuries ago, which is way in the past, right? That we have no way of reclaiming that. That's false. Which again, the field of epigenetics tells us that these ancestral memories live in our DNA. And so how can we now reclaim them, to reclaim ourselves, to heal, despite the chaos that's continuing to happen around us? That part, Giovanna, yes, control of the narrative. Yeah, that's true. Control the narrative, yes. Right, and just the definition of colonization, the action or process of settling among and establishing control over the indigenous people of an area, right? So control on a larger level, a macro level, now also impacts us on a micro level in how we interact with each other, how we view ourselves. Perfectionism, right? Thinking we have to be in control over every little thing. Where does that messaging come from? Right? So it's really important to get curious about these things that we think. And that's where self-awareness can really come into play. When you notice these thoughts bubbling to the surface that you know don't serve you because they don't feel right in your body, it's like, okay, now where did this come from? Who did this come from? Because it's not serving me. Right? So controlling your own narrative is very important. Yes. Yes, so embracing ancestral knowledge and traditions, reclaiming our identities, right? Reconnecting with the wisdom, rituals, and practices of our ancestors, again, over thousands of years. And just a book recommendation. Y'all can see this, The Healing Wisdom of Africa. This Will Let Me Live. But yes, The Healing Wisdom of Africa by Malidoma Patrice Somé, which was recommended to me by Coach Yolanda on YouTube. And I'll link her channel here. But if you are looking to understand more about ancestral wisdom, customs, practices, rituals, just where we come from, the peoples that we come from, would highly recommend this book. And I'll put it in the chat as well. Yes, so please subscribe to Coach Yolanda's channel. We'll put the book in. How can we reclaim traditional healing methods, storytelling, spirituality as a form of self-healing and empowerment? Right? Because healing does not only exist outside of ourselves, which is the narrative that we're told often. We have to go to someone, which can be good, right? It can be beneficial. I've done it many times. But we also have tools within us to heal, like for self-healing. We have ancestral wisdom that we can tap into, things that people have already experienced throughout our bloodline, right? And a lot of that I have found is sitting in silence a lot and asking for guidance and messaging. In this society that we live in that's very fast-paced, right, doesn't really allow us to slow down. We have to take that time for ourselves and just ask. I think I had Latrice on my channel, Latrice Burks Palmerio. We were talking about reconnecting with our ancestors, and that's one of the things she said, right? Just ask. It can be as simple as that, to reclaim ourselves, right? To reclaim the knowledge that we already have within us in these very chaotic times where we see people trying to take us backwards, trying to literally strip us of our rights day after day. It can be draining to the spirit. So really having a deep rooting in who you are and who you come from, right? And the knowledge that, again, is through generations past, and knowing that you still have access to that, right? That's not too far away. That's a lie of colonization, again, to try to strip us from that power that exists within that. So how can you tap back in? How can you embrace ancestral knowledge and traditions? How can you explore your lineage and the strengths that have come from your bloodline? Right? I think Alicia did a video on this, like generational blessings, as well as the traumatic parts of what has happened throughout the generations. I think that's important to realize, that we also have access to the good things, to the benefits, to the strength, to the wisdom that has existed throughout our bloodline. While trauma may also be present, right? Holding space for both of those at the same time. How can we tap into the strength, right? The knowing, the deep knowing. I think that's important as well. Yes. Yeah, just to say, we were not given voices to remain silent, right? So even in these times, it has felt literally like a year. It's only been a week. And we still have 4+ years. It's really going to require us to go within, right? To be rooted in the things that we already know, that radical acceptance, right? We know how folks feel about us. I've done like numerous videos on my channel about the workplace, right? And being gaslighted and told like, hey, come in here, do this thing. We really want you here. And then to see the truth of it, it's like, no, y'all are lying. Y'all are lying. And we're seeing it on full display. And so how do we still tap into our power despite what's happening around us and stay rooted in that? Right? I really yes. Oop, I think my Wi-Fi went out. Sorry, y'all. But yeah, let me know how y'all are doing too. I would love to know. I would love to know. It has been an emotional roller coaster over the past week, right? Feelings of rage, disappointment, fear, not surprise, but still shock, right? And day after day, again, as we see cabinet appointments, it's like all of these things that we're told that we have to get more degrees, get more certifications to be qualified. And we're seeing that's not true, right? That's really not true. And just the impact of feeling like we're being set up in a trap day after day can be a hard thing to sit with. So I'd love to know how y'all are feeling. Yeah. Embracing our bodies and voices. Colonization left a legacy of body shaming and restrictive standards that affect Black women disproportionately, right? The way we view our bodies, colorism, texturism, featureism, right? All of these things impact how we see ourselves, how we show up in the world, right? And so these things are very deep rooted. And so how can we now reclaim our bodies, embrace their inherent beauty to ourselves, bolster that for ourselves, even if no one around us is doing it? It's like, okay, I'll do it for myself, right? And reclaiming that power that was attempted to be stripped from us through colonization, through enslavement, right? Only seeing our bodies as vessels to procreate, right? For Black women, especially during enslavement, something I'm going to be talking about during an episode, like an upcoming episode of On Freedom, my podcast, how Black women were viewed and regarded during enslavement. Yolanda! Hey! Grateful for conversations like this. It's soothing. Oh my God, that means so much to me. Thank you for being here. Thank you. Yes. Jasmine says this week has been so heavy. Yes, with the current political environment and feeling so overwhelmed at work has just been, yeah. I'm sorry. Yes, agreed. Yeah. It's been a lot, y'all. It really has been. It's like one thing after another, right? That we have to deal with, recover from, go back out into the world every day, do our everyday task while this looming thing is just in the corner. That's what it feels like to me. It's like I know it's going to get worse and worse and worse. And so, how do I prepare myself internally and tap into my power for what I know is about to come? Right? Because they're not being shy about, again, the things that we've known, and they try to convince us we're not true throughout all of these years, throughout all of our education, our jobs, toxic job experiences. Now it's on full display. And so that shift has been a little jarring too. And let me know if y'all feel the same way. It's like the truth is on full display, and that can be a lot. Yeah. How can we reclaim and honor our bodies, right? Rejecting Eurocentric beauty standards to embrace our bodies, our beauty. How can we do that, right? What are some ways? Again, rejecting Eurocentric beauty standards. Something we did not consent to, something that was forced on us, and embrace the inherent beauty of our bodies, and even viewing beauty in a different way than what we're told, which is just superficial. It's a lot deeper than that. How can we use our voices, set boundaries? Again, under colonization, the impact that colonization has had on personal boundaries, right? Okay, Crying Tiger, yes, Cat Williams did say this was the year of exposure. He did. He absolutely did. I was just repeating that to myself today. He did. Thank you for that. Yes. And doesn't it feel like it? Right? Again, after all this time of the lies, the gaslighting, it's like now I know how you really feel. And I was right this entire time. Right? And there can be a level of grief to that as well. I know, especially for folks who are working in DEI spaces, which I was in too. I feel for y'all. I really do. Because, right, the truth, trying to still promote initiatives, improve communities while understanding the environment that you're in, that can take a lot out of you, right? And you shouldn't have to deal with that. You shouldn't. Yep. He did, y'all. Yep. If y'all have watched Cat Williams' interview on Club Shay Shay, let me know. Truths were revealed. Truths were revealed. Yes. How can we reclaim our voices, right? Asserting ourselves, saying no in spaces that have silenced us, that have told us that they want our voices and they have lied to us. It's on full display. No, you don't. So you're not getting it anymore. Now that I recognize that, right, having that radical acceptance and understanding of what it is, now I'm not giving you my energy anymore. Now I'm actually taking that for myself unapologetically. Right? And I have heard that from a lot of other Black women creators too, being like, no, you're not getting any of my intellect, my insight, my lived experiences, my energy. That gets cut off. I love that. My no is going to be a musical, loud and booming. Yeah. How can we say no more often? Like, no. Just like that. And it's like for those of us who have difficulty saying no as recovering people pleasers, right, rooted in childhood trauma, that can be difficult, right? But the more that you do it, the easier it gets. Ask me how I know, because I've been saying no left and right these days, because I'm done. I'm just done. So yes, how can we reclaim our voices in our bodies? Y'all bear with me for a second. How can we redefine success and liberation on our own terms? I think I have a banner for this too. The colonial ideas of success, right, tied to materialism and hyperproductivity, don't always align with how we view success. How can we define success for ourselves? What does success look like in our everyday lives? Does that look like rest, care, self-love, play, nature? Right, redefining that for ourselves. No longer am I going to buy into materialism and hyperproductivity that literally drains my energy, harms my body, right? Because that's your idea of success. Okay, that's cool. That's not my idea, right? So it's really defining that for yourself. What does success mean for you? And how can you lean into that? How can your success, your idea of success, honor your passions, your peace, your sense of community, right? Yourself. How can we heal from hustle culture, right? That tells us that we have to grind our bodies to a pulp in order to matter, in order to be of use to who? The colonizer. No, rejecting that and being like, how can I be of use to myself? Right? My life is supposed to be easy, no matter what the messaging we receive, right? That life is just supposed to be hard. We're supposed to be the workhorses. Rejecting that, no. No. And you don't get any more of my labor, right? Literally withholding labor as a form of self-preservation, which is like the feeling that a lot of us are in. Right? I've sacrificed myself for outside entities, for people way too long, and now it's time to preserve myself. If that means that you're upset, then you're going to have to deal with that yourself. Right? No longer taking on other people's emotions as your responsibility. I think that's important. Hey, Maya. Yes, I do remember that Cat Williams interview. He tried to warn us. He did. He did try to warn us. Yes. Hi, Boat. Hey, good to see you. I'm late but grateful to be on the live. Yes, we're so glad to see you here. Thank you. Yes, yes. Thank you for that and welcome. Welcome. Yeah, so rejecting hustle culture, embracing a mindset that values rest, joy, play, fun, nature, right? Not viewing yourself as a colonial subject, which is something I've had to tell myself over and over again. I'm not a colonial subject. I'm a human being living in a world that has been colonized. So that's the messaging that I've received. How can I now be aware of that and like swat it away, reject it? Because our bodies are telling us when we need to rest, when we need to slow down. And it's only through the messaging, the socialization of colonization, enslavement that tells us we need to push through these natural signals that our bodies are giving us. How can we reclaim that for self-preservation? To heal from the effects of colonization, right? Again, if y'all want to take us back, let's go all the way back and like gather the knowledge that we've had throughout thousands of years that y'all tried to bury and keep from us, but still exists within our bodies. Mm-hmm. How can we build and nurture safe community? Let me see. And my app would be malfunctioning right now. Yes. How can we embrace safe community, right? People that make us feel safe, supported, seen, valued, embrace mutual support, that support, right? How can we create safe spaces where we can share, such as this one? I hope this feels like a safe space where we can share what we're going through, process feelings that we've all been through, that we're all experiencing, to heal ourselves, to heal our lineages as well. How can we build connections across generations, right? Intergenerational healing and learning is so important. Learning from our elders, passing down our knowledge to younger generations as well. Things to consider. Hey, Michelle. Good to see you here. Thank you for being here. Coral says, right, okay. Holidays are going to start looking real different. That is so true. That is so true. Yeah. Yeah. And just with like the 2016 election, there were huge family shifts. I know that I experienced. And now it feels it's like on steroids. We see people like having to cut people off that are dangerous, right? And the grief that you experience from that process. So if you're experiencing that, just know that you're not alone. Yeah. How can we practice self-compassion and honor our process of healing, taking our time? Taking our time, being compassionate with ourselves. If we're having days where we can't do it, right? Being gentle, reaffirming to ourselves that's because we're human and what we're experiencing is unprecedented, right? We have been through so much in such a short period of time. Even thinking about the pandemic, right? The trauma of that was never processed, that was never acknowledged. A lot of us lost family members. A lot of us had serious illness from that. And now we're in this chaotic storm of having our rights stripped away from us, left and right. So it's important to recognize that sometimes you have to rest, right? Sometimes you have to rest. These things are processing behind the scenes and we're not always consciously aware of them. But it's a lot that your brain is trying to take in: information, fear, right? Emotions that pop up. So please give yourself grace, patience, understanding, again, in the aim of self-preservation to get through these times and stay rooted in self and rooted in who you are and, again, where you come from and who you come from. Hey, Marilyn, good to see you here. Thank you for being here. Coral says, yes, I'm feeling that already amongst family. Yeah. Yeah. That's very true. Something that I'm experiencing as well. Yeah, just like the familial splits that sometimes you have to take for your own mental health and well-being, but that doesn't mean that it's easy. So yes, it's a lot. Rediscovering spiritual practices that resonate. Again, if you are looking for more information about spiritual practices, would recommend, let's see if it'll let me, if y'all can see that, The Healing Wisdom of Africa by Malidoma Patrice Somé. If you're looking for healing practices, rituals, nature, guides, information from the past to inform the future in ways to survive, thrive, stay rooted in the present, would highly recommend this book. Again, recommended by Coach Yolanda. Thank you. But yes, y'all, I'll put that up again. Lastly, cultivating joy as an act of resistance and healing. How can you intentionally invite in joy to your life, the things that bring you joy, pleasure, fun, excitement into your life as a resistance against oppression that we see occurring all around us, right? An intersectional oppression that Black women face is very real, something I'll be talking more about, and how that impacts our healing. Especially we see things like the patriarchy being discussed as a wider topic, right? How is this impacting us day to day for systems to literally be attempting to strip our power from us? And we're trying to heal, we're trying to preserve ourselves. And all the while, like, we're getting multiple things coming at us from these systems. And so, how is this now impacting us? And how can we embrace joy really as a barrier to systems of oppression? Yes, yes. You are the gift. Oh, Marilyn, yes, I love that. Take care of yourself. Take care. You are the gift. I love that. Thank you for sharing that. Yeah. Hey, cutie pie. Blessings, everyone. Yes, blessings. Welcome. Give yourself grace, patience, and understanding. That's so true. Yeah. Grace, patience, and understanding. In those moments you feel self-critical, right? Completely depleted of energy, which a lot of us are, calling myself out, right? How can you lean into grace, patience, understanding, giving yourself rest, right? When it feels right to do something, do that. Something I've been practicing. Those of us who have been in very strict, rigid family systems, school structures, sometimes it can be difficult to lean into your body's natural responses to do things. And so, how can you make that a practice, right? If I'm not feeling like doing this, I am not going to do it, right? I'm going to wait until I feel it, until I have the energy, and then I'll get back to it. Trusting in yourself and trusting in the flow versus forcing yourself to do things. I think that can be a way of healing too. Yeah, Sayabo says, take stock of those who came before us, lean on the wisdom and guidance of the ancestors. 100%. Yes, that's so important. That's so important. Yeah. Yeah. But yes, y'all, that was my list. So just to wrap it up, right, it's important to reclaim ourselves, our heritage, our culture, as we see other people doing it just openly, boldly, right? And their reclamation of culture often results in our rights being stripped away, right? And our freedom. And so it's important to embrace self-liberation, guard yourselves from the chaos that we see happening around us the best you can, because sometimes it's not possible. I'll be honest with you. But in the moments where you feel that rise up, right? I'm not going to take in any more information. I'm going to sit with myself in silence, ask for guidance again from people who came before me, by tapping in to the power that we have inherently inside all of us to weather these times, right? And self-preservation over everything. Saying no, knowing that if it's difficult to say no, again, that can be a result of childhood trauma, which I've talked about on my channel before, and also the larger system of colonization, right? That has disrupted the flow of the entire globe. And so if you have trouble saying no, please believe you're not the only one. And it's a practice over time of you slowly reclaiming your power and your agency. But you can get there. Yes, listen to your body, listen to yourself, and do you. I love that. Thank you for sharing that. Yes, agreed. Yep. So yes, how can we return to our most authentic selves, right? Maybe be like a journal question. Our ways of being before colonization and enslavement attempted to convince us that we were insignificant and inferior, right? And without power. And our voices didn't matter. And we didn't have agency. All of these messages that we see kind of compounding. That's how I felt over the past week. It's like, okay, now I see like where the larger systems have told us and convinced us of this, because it's coming at us from every angle once again, out loud in the open. Right before, it was kind of behind closed doors for a lot of us. And now it's just on Front Street. It's like, okay, now we see. And so how can you lean in? I love this. Yes, remember They come back. But yes, as we're winding down tonight, just want to thank y'all so much for being here, for sharing what you've shared in the chat. Again, I'll be taking it slow during November. I am working on a coaching offer if you are interested in healing. And I'm also working on another one for starting a freelance business, which I've done to move abroad. If you're interested in that, so please be on the lookout for that. Yes, yes. It will pass. We will persevere. The universe, God, the source will help and guide us. We are so much more powerful than we know. I agree. I agree. The power that exists within each and every one of us, right, is huge. Is huge. And again, these systems attempt to convince us that we're not powerful. Right? The most powerful are the most targeted. That's something I've been sitting with lately. The most powerful are the most targeted. And so how can you sit with the fact that your power is infinite? Right? If you're tapped in and actively putting a barrier up against the chaos that is attempted to be created every single day through various means to try to get us off of our goal, which is the evolution of our spirits, right? Being here on earth. So that's very important. Oh, you're so welcome. You're so welcome. Thank you for being here, Marilyn. Yes, self-care. I appreciate that. Oh, I'm feeling a new me emerging. I'm excited to meet her. Me too. Thank you for sharing that, Yolanda. Me too. Me too. I'm over a lot of stuff. I'm just over it. Right? Let me know if y'all are feeling that way too. Just completely over it. And just saying no has felt so much more natural these days because I just don't have it. I don't have it. You're welcome. Thank you for being here. Thank you. I appreciate that, Coral. Thank you. Thank you. Yes, I think we've always seen it, but been in denial. Retirement has shown how important it is to release yourself from the system so that you can heal and find yourself. Yeah. 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 And that's so true, right? In order to survive a lot of these systems, we have to dissociate day after day, right? Kind of, again, dissociation feels like kind of floating above our bodies, not really being in tune to what we're feeling, our emotions that pop up, and just being in survival mode, trying to get day to day, right? Trying to survive. And that's on purpose. That's intentional. And so how can you bring your awareness to the fact that that's happening? Because that has been healing for me, right? I'm operating in survival mode. So I'm actually going to tap back in, rest, come back into my humanity, and know that these systems cannot have me. They can't. Yes. All right, y'all. So yes, I appreciate y'all being here. Please like again if you like it, subscribe, share all those YouTube keywords. I boast as we are witnessing the death rattles of the old paradigms, yes, passing away. And like a drowning person, they are gasping for air, but we are preparing to give birth to a new world. This is exactly what I've been feeling. Thank you for sharing. Wow. That's powerful. That is powerful. Yes. Yes. Because rebirth has really been sitting with me lately. It does feel like a rebirth. Yeah. I appreciate you sharing this. Yeah. But yes, y'all, I hope y'all have a beautiful rest of your night. And yeah, until I see y'all next time, I will be going live with Glamzini tomorrow at 12:30 p.m. Central to talk about pivoting, the power of pivoting, right? And giving yourself permission to pivot, again, on Glamzini's channel, which I will drop right here. But yes, y'all, until then, yes, okay. Sade says over it. Same, but yes, there's definitely a shift happening, which is inspiring. It is inspiring. It is. With all the chaos that we see happening around us, it's like an even deeper sense of self is forming for a lot of us, an even deeper rooting in who we are and the ability to really say no and establish boundaries for ourselves, to preserve ourselves, to protect ourselves, and to get through, right? To persevere while preserving ourselves at the same time. Thank you, Marilyn. I appreciate that. Yes. Oh, thank you, Maya. Yes, I'll be going live Glamazini tomorrow at 12:30 p.m. Central. Yes. I'm over it and loving the new me. She has been okay. I love this. She has been hiding for too long. I feel like my power has been activated. The sense of peace I feel is amazing. You know what? Same. Same. And thank you for sharing that. Yes. Yeah, I feel like it's a collective way that we're feeling right now. Right? An activation of power, a peace, a radical acceptance. Right? Not saying that it's right, but it's like, okay, this is what it is. This is what it is. And so how do I take that information and now preserve myself in the ways that I have to navigate what I know that it is? Clear as day. Clear as day. Yes. Yes, I appreciate y'all. Yes, hope y'all have a beautiful rest of your night. Until tomorrow, Glamazini. Yeah, see y'all later. Thank y'all so much for being here. Bye.